and welcome back everyone to PKIdeas short number 6, which is the fifth one for this year. Today what we'll be looking at is a game between two great chess players in history, Rubinstein Akiba and Alexander Alhain. This game was played in Penhans in 1926, so it's quite an old game. So the game started off with the first move d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, b6, g3, bishop b7, bishop g2, and bishop b4. Now this opening is called the Queen's Indian, and this specific variation is in the g3 variation where the bishop is fianchettoed in a structure like this, where the bishop is aiming down here, and black technically has the same type of position with him aiming down here. So that's the general idea of the Queen's Indian in this specific variation. And white played knight b to d2, stopping the check, after which black replied by castles, castles, and d5. Here in this position you might think that black is actually limiting his pieces, but in fact he is not, because he is attacking this important c4 pawn, and if white maybe decides to take like this, then black can make sure to take with the knight or with the pawn, and bring the bishop out either this way or this way, which means it's furthermore opening up the bishop and opening up the possibilities in the position by playing d5. It is also challenging white's centralized pawns. So a3, bishop e7, b4, c5. Now here, as you can see, there are lots of points of tension in this position. Since it is white to play, these are the points of tension, these two pawns over here. They're the points of tension because that is the only place where the pieces are actively interacting with each other and attacking each other. So b takes c5 is played, b takes c5, d takes c5, and then bishop takes c5. Notice here in this position, black is slightly better since he has only two pawn islands. By pawn islands, this is what I mean. This here is one pawn island, and this here is another pawn island. For white, there are three pawn islands because here, here, and this pawn structure over here. So it's 2 versus 3 pawn islands with black with a slight advantage because of his further developed pieces, and that black only has 2 moves to develop his knight to here and his rook b8. So bishop b2 was played, after which knight b d7, knight e5, knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, and knight g4. Notice here in this position there is another point of tension right over here. At any time black can take like this on the pawn and exchange his bishop and knight for the rook and pawn. Instead of doing this, black always keeps the pressure. It was always said that keeping pressure on the opponent is much better than actually letting go of the pressure and simplifying down and exchanging pieces. So therefore bishop c3 was played, rook b8, rook b1, d4, and then what white played was rook takes b7. Now rook takes b7 looks like it kind of wins a piece, but it doesn't. Here I'll tell you that rook takes b7 was a blunder. Here what white should have played is played bishop to b4, after which bishop takes b4, a takes b4, knight to e5, bishop takes b7, rook takes b7, and then b5, with an equal position for both white and for black, and it's both playable. In this position, as we can see, it's 2 pawn islands versus 2 pawn islands, and there are active pieces for both sides. Whoever makes the mistake first loses this game. So therefore, that is what white should have played. Bishop to b4 is what white should have played. So now we look at what happened in the game. Rook takes b7. Here that white fell for that decoy on b7, and the bishop on c5 here. Once again we see this idea is aiming indirectly at this pawn over here. Therefore what black played was rook takes b7, bishop takes b7, and knight takes f2. An excellent move. The reason why this is so good is because it is opening up this, which was the main idea in the game, and after which king takes f2, d takes e3, e3, and c takes d2. Notice here, queen cannot take the pawn because this queen is guarding it. Now after all of that swapping, we see here it's equal material. But the only problem is, once again, the pawn structures. Here, white has 4 pawn islands, whereas black only has 2. Therefore, it is much easier for black to go and take on the pawn, because the pawns are not defending each other. So after king e2 was played, queen b8, bishop f3, rook d8. Furthermore, guarding this pawn. Notice right over here, the queen is guarding the pawn, and once the king moves to e2, the queen can take the pawn. So therefore, that pawn is going to get lost. That is why black played this maneuver of queen b8 attacking the bishop, bishop to f3, and rook to d8, successfully guarding the pawn with a lower rated piece, which means that if white takes with a higher rated piece, it means that he's going to lose material. So queen b1, queen d6, a4, f5, rook d1, bishop b4, queen c2. Notice here in this position there are 3 attackers and there's 1, 2 and 3 defenders all on this pawn. And also notice that this pawn is on a dark square. This is an absolute advantage for black because of his dark squared bishop. So always make sure to put your pawns on the dark squares when they are nearly going to queen, which means there is extra protection for your pawn. So queen c5, king f2, a5, bishop e2, and g5. What g5 does is that it brings extra reinforcements. Notice here once again this diagonal is absolutely crucial because the only thing defending here is this pawn over here. Once this pawn goes, white's king is absolutely not safe. So after bishop d3 and f4, white resigned. Now I'll tell you what the idea here is technically. So if white plays something like king to g2, which is absolutely forced because he cannot defend this pawn, king g2, queen takes e3, and then bishop takes h7 trying to grab a pawn, king h8, and then queen e4 has to be played because of attacks like here and queen here and probably queen check, swapping off the rook and then promoting to a queen himself and then bringing the rook down the next move to win the queen. So queen e4 has to be played, rook d4 again attacking the queen. So queen takes e3, f takes e3. Notice here the queen is now gone from this diagonal, which means the bishop is on pre and attack over here as well. What this means is that this is the principle of 2 weaknesses, a weakness of having a bishop on pre and the weakness of having a pawn going to queen soon. So king f3 is forced trying to stop the pawn and king takes h7. Here in this position you don't need me to tell you that black is absolutely winning here. The aim here is after king takes, play rook takes, and then put your rook down over here. Afterwards, the king will come over here, take this, take that, play over here, and move up his pawn, like so. So as you can see here, this position is absolutely destroyed for white, and it all started off with a move of rook takes b7. As we go back here, what white did was that he mistook the threat on f2. He dismissed it, saying, oh, it's not that much of a bigger deal because of the material sense. So therefore, instead of taking on the b7 bishop, should have played bishop b4. Game would have been fine over here like this with equal chances for both sides. But due to a mistake by Rubinstein, Alekhine won this game. So I hope you learned something from this game, something about not dismissing your opponent's threats as normal threats, and always make sure to think and calculate during a game because your opponent might have cheap tricks and tactics everywhere on the board and you have to make sure you know all of them. And so if you like that video, please go down to the comment section below and ask any questions that you wanted about the game. I'll be happy to reply, and please do not forget to like, subscribe and share as well. And if you already haven't done so, please go to the PKIdeas blog website on Blogger and make sure to read some of the articles on there which will help you improve your chess as well. So that being said, thank you for watching.